Hi there, it's Jeff. Have you got a DIY project where you've got to make some cabinets and you want to put some adjustable shelves in your cabinets? Well, stick around, I'll show you how to make this quick, easy, adjustable shelf hole jig so you can make your own holes in your cabinets for your shelves. To start off with, just got some components here and some shelf pins here to show you and explain about what's going on with the drill bits as well. Now your shelf pins, there's a variety of shelf pins that you can use, but the actual pin is generally a 5mm diameter pinhole, and hence you'll need a 5mm drill bit for to go into your material, whether it be melamine or plywood or whatever you may be using. What I end up using is these drill bits that are spring loaded, and they have this shroud around them, and the shroud is usually around about 3/8 or 10mm. So I generally make my jigs for these using a 10mm hole. So this is one that actually a friend of mine made for me on the CNC machine, and it has that little bit of an edge so you can put it up against your material and it stays square. But you'll notice that there's a big hole, these are big holes, and that is to accommodate for, you know, that drill bit, so it goes in there. With these drill bits as well, the spring loaded shroud comes back, and the depth that actually goes into your board is enough depth for your shelf pin to actually slip right into, and you just got to make sure you're not using material that's not as thick as that pin. If you don't have one of these spring-loaded varieties of drill bits, you can just use your 5mm drill bit. You want the ones with the pointed ends on them, the twist drills, and you can just put a bit of masking tape, or you can put the stop collars that you can get for them to adjust the depth, but that's going to depend on the material that you're drilling into. So you can still make this jig even if you don't have one of these spring-loaded drill bits, which is what I'm going to use and show you how to make. The material that I'm using for this is just some scrap that I've got lying around. It's just happened to be around about 9mm MDF material. I've cut that to size, and I've cut a strip as well, which will go on in the center like that, and you can use the jig that way or that way, it doesn't really matter. But the idea is to have a little bit of a lip for it to sit up against the end of your material. Very similar to the handle jig that I've made, if you've seen that video previously. So let's get on to the next step now, marking this out and drilling this jig out for the shelf pins. Okay, the first thing I'm doing here is marking the center of this jig. Then from each side of that center line, left and right, I'm going to mark 32mm, which is going to be the spacings for the adjustable shelf holes. Then I will grab my combination square, and I'm going to square a line right across the board, and then I will pay particular attention to the center line, which will be the reference when lining this jig up with the center line of your adjustable shelf holes. I'm going to square a line down the edge of that board as well, which will line up with that mark on your cabinet where you want your shelf holes to go. Next step here is setting up your combination square to around about 50mm or 2 inches, and that's going to be the distance from the edge to the center of my adjustable shelf holes. So I'm just marking that across those lines now, and that'll be the mark for the drilling. Here I have the end piece, which will get screwed onto the jig. I'm just marking the center of that, and I'm going to pre-drill 3 nice even holes on this one to screw into that jig. For this next step, drilling into your jig, the 5mm hole, it's a good idea if you've got a drill press handy to drill these, so your holes are nice and square, but if you don't, you can do this by hand. Okay, here in this next step, I've just clamped everything down to hold it tight and just screwing in that end piece, which acts as a stop when this jig is complete, using some 5/8 screws. As you can see here in the pictures of the drill bit, you want to adjust the depth of that drill bit going into your material using a bit of masking tape, or you can use stop collars. And that's going to be the depth that that drill bit's going in there for, to accommodate for your shelf pin. Well, there you have it. Quick, easy, adjustable shelf hole jig to suit 5mm shelf pins. And my pro tip here is make sure that you have a sharp 5mm drill bit so you don't chip the holes in your melamine. Otherwise it's gonna look awful. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, press like and please subscribe so you can keep up to date with all my up and coming new videos. See you in our next video.